Okay, forgive me. This is going to be a bit of a, what I will admit will be an actual ramble for the first time in the years I said that rambles don't count until the 15 minutes are over. And I said that on a NoFap vlog for the main channel, back when it was called Crosswind. It was the very first vlog on that channel, even since compared to the other videos from years before, when I was first starting YouTube journey or whatever else you call that jargon. It's not even that if I would ever stay on YouTube or any other reason that would happen to be controversial in any other degree. It's just that I happen to be someone who did everything for a reason. And that being said, you have to admit even that vlog looks pretty messed up. But even standards for quality, I don't know, I believe it, but who knows? It's it won't change our rotation. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with this. Okay. Sexual orientation on the camera. What the hell I said for? Anyways, I started talking to myself a bit more in the house the last 5 minutes or so. So I decided I'd turn this video on, even if I was going to say something I had to cut out of the video, if it was too personal or private or whatever, which I will never have to say that myself because I'm someone who, by the time I will say something private or personal, it won't be because I actually thought it was private or personal, because I want to see if that actually mattered to me. I'll never actually say it initially if I think that was actually personal or private. It'll be way more complicated than that. Because everyone who said that something was personal or private for me, to protect me, wants to also potentially, perhaps, ensure the idea that I care about that way. I really don't give a damn about that kind of thing. I should to protect myself, but I don't. And that's probably the first point I need to make, is that I'm a complicated person. And the things I've been talking about for the last 5 minutes before I turn this camera on, geez, that would have been literature gold. But it's okay. I just need to have that moment to myself. Not alone time, again, not for private personal reasons. No alone time. I don't need alone time. I'm an extrovert who needs to be the social butterfly I depend on being, even if I can still be meditative with myself and believe in being alone and will for it otherwise. But to the extent that I actually know that I still care about being with other people and myself alone, all the same. So that being said, here are some other things I have in mind. I just turned 25 a week ago, and I don't have to have that hijink where I mentioned the other videos on this channel. If this is going to be Marshkoff's channel on YouTube, then you'll already know that to the extent I'm going to say this about it being. But if that makes sense, like my communication skills, social skills. But I actually think that I turned 25 on the consensus that trying to be the most important person of all time, or trying to actually have a landmark that wasn't too hyper-focused on the numbers, but rather on what they would actually mean if I could track and pace myself to do certain things, or lack thereof, what have you. But it's not, I don't have to make something out of the time I have. So even if this was like a perspective, maybe I wouldn't have to care about that before I die, or if I actually was going to make my legacy mean something, with or without children or wife or whatever, however that's going to go about. But for those of you who are subscribed, and for those of you who have seen my other videos, including the political content or the philosophy videos, social skills, science communication, philosophy, marketing management, strategic planning, there's a whole lot of that in that jargon. Again, as I say that for some reason. But you know one thing at least about my personality, and it's that I'm a complicated person with the side dish of the fact that I never give up. Because you can be complicated and not give a shit. You can be a simple run-of-the-Joe who is relentless. But to be someone who is dedicated and that articulate, you would think I would be unsolvable. But I'm not the kind of person you would think I am at this age. It's not that I'm ashamed of that. I'm not, as I said outside in the backyard a little softly, I'm not disappointed, I'm not depressed. I'm just kind of I'm mystified. I said that all day. I was like, every once in a while, I said I'm mystified about the situation I'm in. Curious, even. I'm wondering how I got here, in both the good and the bad ways, how I actually managed to be less pressured about what to do about my life, even though at the same time it really does suck that I actually feel this alone and not really in the headspace I could be in. I dealt with some people in my life like this. I've dealt with my grandfather and my romantic interests and my family friends and all that, actual and father figures, all of them like that I actually never interacted with them or even myself in the way that I thought I would. And to make sense of that, let me just say that you already know how bad I am communicating, right? And not. It's here and there. It's like either like 4 out of 4 level literacy style communication, or gibberish. It goes back and forth. It's like I'll either be really good at speaking or not at all. And it's not frustrating for me to do that because I don't like the word frustrating anyways, as well as interest. Other words in that mix. Mind your own business. Oh wait, my OB. I don't like that. Okay, whatever. But I do have a way of not being well centered with how I think. And even though I'm a very organized person, I don't like to say it like this because I don't believe I don't believe in being discomforted because I think that's cringe in itself. But let's just say that I'm discomforted with the idea of not knowing how to be well centered with the things that are happening in this moment and behind it and in front of it. So like if I'm in a situation where I'm talking to somebody and I don't know how to just be in the moment, really transparent, and the only thing I can do is be myself, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's enough. And that's okay, but it's a strange feeling where you actually did not, like for example, like sometimes I'll tell the truth, and my big gambit with being honest, almost too honest every once in a while, not just in the way we get bullied, but like where you tell the truth, and then I'm the one who'll say that it feels like telling the truth is pointless if you don't have people who are going to be out of their own egos and not have to redefine the truth themselves. For people to not have to decide what the truth is all on their own, which is supposed to be a good thing. They can find their own truths, as I've said before, by myself without the camera rolling. But it's okay for them to find their own truths, but if they have to do it in a way where they disregard the fact that you're not trying to lie to them, it's kind of fucked up. But, I can finally finish this video in 10 minutes and then make another clip I may need to. But the thing is that I just don't have a way. Look at me pacing. Oh, holy crap! I pace around a lot more than I think, as you may have noticed. Why is these lower? How does my legs be so fit? They look like actual athlete legs without even trying, and I'm just walking around all the time, or even running or sprinting, so to speak. Being an Olympic champion, which I'm not kidding about. I actually do want to be an Olympian, but so I have this ideal that days like today don't just come because I'm lost. I know that I have a destiny. I know that these things are leading to greatness. I know every day I feel like this, something is about to happen that will change my life forever, in both a good or a bad way. I don't just feel lost for the sake of not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. I always know what I'm doing. I do everything for a reason. But the brilliant thing about this is that I actually have worked my way up to a point where I was truly patient with everything that's happened. I didn't give up. I didn't hold back on my punches for things that I still tend to be insecure and weak about sometimes. I'm not trying to be a jerk about that to myself at least. But, it's not ideal to me to think that nothing will ever change, even if that's literally what happens. I hope that's not actually what happens. I do want things to change. And I actually don't know why my mother thinks I'm someone who doesn't like change, but, I just, it's interesting. I'm never really present with who I am, yet I'm in multiple places at once. That may be a bit of a selfish sacrifice in itself, which is kind of pointless or even kind of unintended for what you might think it would be intended, but I did want to be the multitasker. I did want to be the person who did everything for a reason, wanted to become the most important person of all time, had all these goals set up in front of me, milestones if that, having to know that I actually didn't have to do any of them and still be content with where I was. But it was not hard to achieve that. It's just that people misunderstand what I mean by being or doing the things I care about. It's not that I'm never going to be classified as their criticism. It's just that their criticism reminds me of the person I used to be. I was the guy who would tell people, well, you're not like this, you're actually this, and then expect them to believe me. I was that person, and then that happened to me. I ended up being judged by the people about what I was or wasn't doing on whatever reality or imagination I had at the time I had, and that can be frustrating in itself. I'm going to keep going past 10 minutes, by the way. So we are at a point in my life where I don't know how to stop walking. Yikes. I don't know how to quit being stubborn about the things that I know won't be better if they're not having closure. Some things I was forced to get closure to, some things that had no closure, had closure later on in my life, etc., etc. It's you bet your damnness that I'm not the kind of person who just leaves something behind, just like Dr. Clemdis from Jimmy Neutron. Oh my God! First example of this whole video, Jesus. Tamer went at that, but he was a character in that show, that cartoon show where Nickelodeon, whatever. Jesus. He was a villain who never finished anything that he started, and that was just a concept that didn't really mean anything in the show, but like it was still pretty interesting to say it like that. It was to describe an intellectual being like that, because pretty much everyone is smart, and I don't believe in the idea of intellectual instability, or the way I reword human stupidity is humane stupor, but I don't believe in that. I actually think that everyone's smart, because at the very least, everyone knows something that you don't, and I mean that in a literal sense too. I don't just think that anyone can be stupid, or even most people would be, but that everyone is smart. And that's just my philosophy for that. I'm a pro-materialist at the same time, so I don't have to think that there's no substance in what is given compared to what people have said about my communication skills, and said that I'm being pointless in my actions and my thoughts. But screw them at that point. Who needs them? And I don't even mean that in an aggressive way. I mean that because they sincerely don't have to be worth my time. But it's just I'm saying that in an ironic way, because I just said that those things I did would matter, and I said that they didn't have to matter. I guess you get to choose or whatever. If that's like critical. But I digress. I never digress, but whatever. I said that before, many times before too, so all the more ironic. And I say ironic a lot too. Anyways, I don't think that I'm someone who didn't make the most out of what he did. I just have a lot of shit to go through that often has to validate against that. It's pretty messed up. I don't even know if I remember what I just said earlier. But, finishing where I started. Jesus. And my grandfather did not like it when I said, you could process your thoughts, and you won't have to always say that if you at least waited. And even if you had waited too long, you still didn't have to say which is nice. But it's just nice to hear the not hearing of that. I'm proud of all of you for watching this video, but not even just that. That's a hot take of a narcissism perspective. That isn't actually narcissism. Let me just reword like this. I'm proud of you guys because I know that you're watching this video out of curiosity or even out of your own admiration, but really, I do think you guys have what it takes to make what you wish of this world, even if it has nothing to do with making it better. You could be part of the solution. You don't have to be. Even just being in a meditative state is its own solution, which means that you're not forcing too much of anything, which is what I'm doing lately these years anyways. But I think it's much better that you guys just, and I say this with a bit of a brag, humbly, that if you hear what I'm saying and you don't even understand it, because there's a quote from Dustin's comic strip. Dustin's a freaking comic strip, whatever. Why was I say it like that? But my favorite strips in the entire collection is when the father says that you don't have to understand to be understanding. And I resonate with that very deeply. I think, and I also one of Red Rover's comic strips is like a soul-paced cultivation or something like that. I resonate with those ideals so deeply. They don't have to be realistic per se, but they're good enough ideals, and I don't hold back on that. I'm gonna push for 20 minutes if I can. I'm gonna resonate about that anyways, but yeah, I just for soul-paced cultivation, I'd say that it was only fair that I didn't have to be an all-in hunter compared to a baseless farmer. Both labels, I guess you could say, they were buzzwords, if any. They were coined from a video from previously, it's McCoy's, but then it's Angel. He's a no-fap addiction recovery guy. He's one of those guys who did the meditative state thing. He's got a certain culture. So Angel was able to recover from his poor addiction, And again, that's another example I can give. Like, how to even give any. There's a controversial take on how examples ought to be given, if you're even political. If you even heard me say that. Angel didn't have to be either one of those things. He didn't have to be based a farmer or all-in hunter. But what he did do was that he gave an explanation on what the difference between those two were. And so he explained how some people do take too many breaks, some people take too little. And to distinguish between that, if you can look at your own life and be completely honest, brutally speaking honest, about where you are in your own life, then maybe you wouldn't have to be too brutal on yourself, or maybe you could push to 110%. That's just up to you how you decide it. It's not like a scale you have to work with back and forth. You could just implement certain strategies in your life that could pertain both or neither. Up to you. But what I find interesting is that I'm alert to the idea of being an all-in hunter, but I never deny the power that comes with being a baby-sized farmer. Like, it's either being a baby-sized farmer, that's who I am, but still being very much interested in the idea of potentially, hopefully someday, being an all-in hunter if I ever so have a destiny for that it will come in place. But here's the thing, though. Do I need to do everything just to prove that just to validate what I'm doing makes sense or is rightful, or it doesn't have to righteous? It doesn't have to actually be based on farming because it would be too slow. I'm not ashamed of being too slow. I'm ashamed of not being someone who is not honest with himself what his situation is, which is appealing to both those options. So that's also a big cultivation. With understanding, with not having to understand to be understanding, there's an even deeper truth with that, because you know that you don't have to actually understand what someone's saying to what they mean, but to go deeper than that, what if you only understood what they were without what they intended? And I think that was part of his message there, was how that would work. And it's a beautiful, that's a beautiful way to miscommunicate for the sake of knowing that you would have some better connections and ideas to come through. This is why I often say that facts, something bequeaths fact. It was an older classic version of something I said. Tough bequeath fact. It was a weird way to say that facts can be betrayed in certain ways. I said experiences betray the instances. I've said experiences betray the instances, and that time only hides what can't contemplate. But that facts can only be better than over feelings if they are not betraying what their logic would coincide with. And that doesn't even have to be relevant to feelings and emotions. It just happens to know how logic can be inconsistent. Even though by definition logic is only consistent, it was only consistent. But there was a way I was trying to describe that without being too much of a dumb butt about saying that. But I'm very much happy where I am. There is so much I really wish would be in place to make more sense to me. Things that I wish would have made sense to me a long time ago, without even being remotely connected to a pornography addiction or all the other tremors of my life going on. And not limited to the ones in the world, which are controversial in themselves, because even then you can misunderstand what's going on. Not just in my life, but in other people's lives around the world, in the nation, whatever. You look at recent events when this video is published, you can look up them. This is 2022, so you got an idea for that. But I'm going to close off at 20 minutes. I hope you guys have a good day. Just be sure that you remind yourselves that the important thing you need isn't necessarily to survive or to be happy. It is just to be content with what you have. However anti-objective that sounds, but really just think about what really matters to you, even if it's not the same as what everyone else thinks is crucial at that point. But you don't have to be like them. You can be unique and relatable, as I said before. It's not something that you don't have to do. It's not something that you should do no matter what. It's not something that you must do at all costs. It is just how it comes about. There are objective facts you'll find throughout your life that will actually make sense in every single situation that you can take for granted. And there are also subjective truths that can be beautiful all the same, just because they don't have to match in every situation, and they can still be very much relatable all the same. Unique for the objective, I guess you could say. However you go about your life, you have to remember that the only way you can know for sure if something works is to try it. That is the truth behind being an experience that is not going to make sense to you.